she showed us the archives and really led the way. She also gave us an opportunity, she made a place for us to send our interns to, because we contract with the state. And we began to send our interns there and began to learn firsthand from Mr. Couye, even Mr. Evans, teaching our interns on how to archive, how to scan, how to preserve. And it became a part of our mission, and we have done our very best to back Mr. Couye. And in the spirit of that work, we actually created an application called MarketQuest.ai. And MarketQuest is something that we're going to be showing to you here with our Washington UW students are going to come and help present that. But what it does is it's something that gamifies history, where we're placing up markers all over Washington and many other states in collaboration with the National Youth Coalition, Latch, several museums that sign up. And what this does is, once they visit the location, they can get more history on it and they can interact with that history in the application. But more importantly, the app shows them where the history is at and allows them to be able to visit it, and they can basically collect the sites and look on the sites that they've gone to. And so this is like, anybody play Pokemon? Anybody play Pokemon? Yeah, we got a few. This is like collecting, but instead of collecting Pokemon, you're collecting your history. This is a way to engage our youth and making history exciting, because we made it accessible. We preserved it, but now we want to gain interest, restore the interest in the history of our people, and that's our goal. And so, I'm going to let Taylor, thank you. I'm going to let Taylor present some of the people we want to honor with these markers. These markers are not something, we're not charging anything. This is not something to make money. We're not charging anything to put these markers up, but we want to place them everywhere that we can. And so we had a few people in mind. We had a lot of people in mind, but we wanted to make special honors for people that we care about, that we commune with consistently. And I'll let Taylor take it from here.
Why we're doing this work. I mean, we all know that U.S. history books, like when we look at what's in them, a lot of it doesn't really speak to Black people, if at all. I mean, it talks about the plantations, the Civil War, maybe a little bit about the Great Migration and World War II, but it doesn't talk about our huge contributions, and that's the same for Washington State as well. You know, it speaks as if Black people appear in urban cities like Seattle, you know, after the World Wars and all of that, but we've been here. So, for example, Shiloh Baptist Church, East Brazil, has been here, and we want to commemorate them today. Shiloh, do you want to come up? And so we make sure we're gonna have these markers for them. They're gonna go up on the trees all along the street so that people will be able to see that history.
Yeah, thank you.
I am so excited to say that when it comes to our founders, we have plaques for people like George Putnam Riley, who helped build Hilltop Tacoma. We have plaques like George Bush, who helped build the city, the capital of the state. We have plaques for people like John Garrison, who built Bremerton before it was even a city. In addition, we have our plan is to get plaques all along the Falls Waterway for the Puyallup tribe and the Tacoma tribe along the area of the Crown Museum in Tacoma. And I have to pause here and say this, that the Tacoma tribe is the reason why we're able to have this. They're the reason why we're able to do this work. It has been that they grant funding. Many in the state city were not able to give us the funding because of budget cuts and other things. But the Tacoma tribe stepped up, and they are why we're even able to do this. And in Tacoma, along MLK, and then in Bremerton, along 6th, 7th Avenue, we're going, and Park Avenue, all the way up to Quincy Square, we're going to have the plaques there. And the goal is, sometimes my math don't be math, those of y'all who know, I may have sometimes have very lofty goals, but our goal is to do this for, to have them up by the 4th of July so that people can be able to honor and see our history, for the United States 250th anniversary. So, I have a couple of, and I also want to mention, I know I can kind of share with y'all what these look like. But I also wanted to, I forgot to, up here. The Evergreen State College Tacoma campus who allowed us to house these archives. I'm so grateful for them. So grateful for them. We also have a plaque, for them that's going to be going around. And just to sort something, but, I just want to acknowledge, Associate Dr. Keith Stafford.
And just one thing that she got to mention that we are working with the Tacoma Parks and putting on a tour of the markers, and so that's going to be coming up soon. So look out, check out the email, y'all. So y'all gonna receive that in your email, and thank you so very much.
I'm going to pass them around very soon. But yes, and one thing I forgot to mention. So this work is youth powered. Hello, okay? Our youth from Evergreen State College Olympia, from Evergreen State College Tacoma campus, from just even from our elementary and middle school students, they help pitch in and help doing this work. So I just want y'all to know that this work, I mean, we all know the work can't be done alone. It's not being done alone. Our youth are the ones who's driving this. And so I'm so grateful for that. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know about the rest of you, but as I push 80,
It is my pleasure. However, because of how significant this person is, I just kind of feel very frail at being able to have a historian, a teacher, a professor, and someone so loved. But we're going to do a little change of schedule, if it's okay with you, and have you come up just before lunch. It's up to you if you would like to talk with them. Yes. A little change just for our schedule because we want to honor our guests and their time. And so we have Dr. Marcia, Tate, Arunga from Evergreen. And I just have to tell you, this history, the leader and the leadership of love during this time period, it's remarkable that we get an opportunity to hear her speak and be in her presence. And so for those of you who haven't had the opportunity, probably on the Kitsap County, throughout Washington State and the region, she's one of the most important caretakers and nurturers of Black leadership, youth, and empowering professors today.
That bothered people for me to go to the podium. And,
We're going to move this to the middle here. I could drive. I would love to drive. If you need me to drive, I got you. I would drive.
Good afternoon, or is it still morning? Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be here. Good morning. Yes, such an important conversation. And I see myself in the company of wonderful people, good friends, old and new. So welcome to this summit. So excited to be here today as your keynote. Even though what's been said already has been so powerful, I don't know what I'll add to it, but I will try. And I'd like to acknowledge first, I don't know if we poured libation before we started this event, but I would just like to honor a few names here. Because as we talk about the preservation, we need to make sure that we are remembering some of the people who shaped this work, and Seattle, Tacoma, Pacific Northwest, and so honored to see so much Tacoma in the house. A little bit of Seattle, we gotta get better. And then the Pacific Northwest, we are everywhere and we have work to do. And to pour this libation, I just want to honor the names of George Washington, the first Black pioneer that came to the state of Washington, settled in Centralia. I want to honor George Washington Bush, the first Black man who settled in Tumwater and founded it. I want to honor George Putnam Riley, the first of 12 families to invest in Tacoma area, and specifically the Hilltop neighborhood of Tacoma. This was a Black man along with 12 other families, one white family who walked up and did the negotiations. But the other 12 families had invested in the future of Hilltop, and today we know the Hilltop to be there. Thank you. I want to honor Nettie Asbury, a great scholar and an NAACP advocate, stayed strong for Tacoma for a long time. Peggy Maxey, our own first elected representative, Black representative. Roberta Byrd Barr, what a great educator of all time, such an advocate. Just want to honor her today. Sam McKinney, not just because Dr. McKinney is here, but because he made his mark out Washington State. We have powerful leaders that we have to acknowledge. And last but not least, though I could go on, I want to remember Sam Smith, City Councilman of Seattle and also Washington State Representative. And I say to the spirit of those named, who stood and struggled before us, we pour this libation and we offer praise for them. Ashe, 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 Ashe. Thank you, Akuye. You're always there, and that's why you're a cultural custodian. You know, to bring the water and to represent the water pouring into the flowers is what we would do if we were out in the elements. We would pour that water on the ground and we would honor our ancestors. And we say Ashe in the Yoruba words of "it is so." And so honored that we have our own culture. It's not something we are defiant about. I think we've come into it. We understand that our history did not start in the cotton patches of Mississippi. We have history in the cotton patches of Mississippi. We have built this country throughout and made it an amazing, stellar country that is a model of the world. But we are from another place. We migrated here from Africa. We must always remember that. Because until Africa is respected, we will not be respected as her diasporan children. Yeah. You know, when I say diaspora, I'm talking about the people who were dispersed during the transatlantic slave trade to be all over the world. And today there's a new movement of immigrants who have been dispersed for whatever reasons, of course, and they have spread to be all over the world as well. So I just want to say good morning to everyone. Good morning. And what a lovely day to gather. And a lovely building. Congratulations, Roger, to you and your colleagues. The work that Roger is doing is going to elevate preservation beyond our understanding. And so I want to commend you, continue the work. Let's just keep supporting him and encouraging this work. Thank you, Roger, for that. And of course, Akuye, I have to say, when Akuye came to Evergreen, she didn't come alone. She brought with her a whole building, a whole shipload of African artifacts that adorn the building. From the second floor, on the stage, on the first floor, everywhere. And this imagery for young or for thriving Black adults who want to get their education, to see themselves, their history adorned on the walls, opens up certain mental channels for them to reach understanding that is not available to us in this country. So just the photograph on the wall is so critical. And I thank you because you generously brought all of that work to Evergreen, and it adorned Evergreen so beautifully. So these are my colleagues I'm working with on this particular summit, and we know the importance of the summit. We know the importance of this work, but I do have a quote from Chandler Williams, great historian, wrote a book called The Destruction of Black Civilizations. And he said in the opening of his book, what happened to the people of Sumer? For the records show that the people of Sumer were Black. What happened to them? Ah, the old man sighed. They lost their history, and so they died. Let that be our warning. Let that be our call now, that we are responsible for preserving our history. We love the government role that has been taken. We understand budget cuts. We love the role that other people have taken on our behalf. But the responsibility for educating our children and for continuing to preserve our history is ours. It falls in the hands of Black people. And the Pacific Northwest is not shabby in showing its demonstration of what it knows about the preservation of history in Washington State. We have been diligent at it. And I want to congratulate everyone. Look at the room. We are filling the room because we believe this is important work. So I have a few stories that I wanted to share with you today. And those stories actually are personal stories. One has to do with my own aunt. Now, she is actually my great aunt. Her name was Irene Grayson. Yes. And John, I was even going to tell part of your story, but you're going to tell your own story because it's so powerful. And his family, along with Irene Grayson, settled in a place called Renton, Washington. And that was in the early 1900s. She left Okmulgee, Oklahoma, and traveled and ended up in the Seattle, actually in Roslyn, Washington, was her first home abode in this state. And then moved herself over to Seattle. Husband was a pastor, and they decided this is hard work, cleaning people's houses. You know, there's a restriction of what Black people could do, even in Washington State. And I just want to say that that's part of a caste system. We didn't create it, but it did exist then, and it still exists today. There is a disdain for Black people and their history, despite the fact that we have built this country for free. But the humanity and that is a part of us has not been respected or appreciated. But I tell you today, that responsibility falls on us. So that our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I love what you said, Lord Show. You said the children's great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. That's what we should be thinking about. Afrofuturism, we call it, because we know that we are imagining a future that doesn't exist right now. But the roots come from our history. At Evergreen State College, we say Sankofa is a symbol that says it flies forward with the head turned back. And that is Sankofa that says, in order for you to know your culture, in order for you to know where you have come from, you have to first know where you have been. So all this cycle of life is very, very critical to this. So as Irene moved here from Okmulgee, she was tired of working in people's homes. She told her husband, let's move up the hill to Renton. I think we can get some land there. There's some black folks up there. They've got land. We can get land and we can all live together off the land. She moved up there and got 100 acres accumulated. She was one of the biggest land masses in that area. There were about 9 families, if I'm not mistaken, John. I know your family was one of them, and he will tell you his story. And we used to go to Renton like it was a day trip. We would actually pack food and drive, caravan, 3-4 cars to Aunt Irene's house about 2 or 3 times a year, just to visit her. And up on the hills of the highlands of Renton, she had pigs, she had vegetables, fruits. They were doing very, very well. All of the families that lived in that area, those black families, would collect their harvest every week and have a market, have a farmer's market. It may be the first farmer's market that we know of in this Pacific Northwest. And all of the families were doing that. That's how they made their money. They worked together. They were in. What I want to say is collective action. Because one person could not have done that. But now all these families working together made sure that they were able to have a livelihood from the land. So I really, really honored that. And I didn't understand it. I was a young child. Later, when I moved to Africa for 11 years, I came back. First person I went to see was Aunt Irene. And Aunt Irene had moved into a little house. And that farmland that she had owned was taken from her by eminent domain. Actually, it was the Boeing Company. You know the Boeing Company? Okay, because see, the Boeing Company has a very serious history in the state. I want to tell you that my parents lived on Duwamish Bend. If you've ever heard of Duwamish Bend, it may be erased from our history. I couldn't find it in maybe Stephanie, you may have some history about Duwamish Bend, but this is where most of the families who worked for Boeing and the shipyards in Bremerton and in Seattle had to live. They were shanty towns along the river, the Duwamish River. And there were no neighborhoods that they could just move into and invest. Much later came the central area where it was now redlined. So I'm talking about eminent domain, my Aunt Irene, but I'm also talking about the ability to live in a city and choose where you want, what neighborhood you want to live in. That is about redlining for black people. Because we couldn't live just anywhere. You had to live within a certain district. In Seattle, that district was the Central District. In Tacoma, that was part of the East Side and the Hilltop. But there was also a neighborhood where we see today the Tacoma Dome, I'm told. A very strong black neighborhood that is no more. So now we're starting to see how these things begin to disappear. All right? So I went to Aunt Irene's house in 1993 or 1994. I walk into her house and she explains she doesn't do farming anymore. They took the land. She only has one little house, and eventually, when she died, she had no heirs. She had children, but the children didn't have children. And in fact, I know that my name was listed as one of the heirs that could have inherited her home. But they found a way to return that home to the government. So these are some of the ways in which we get disenfranchised and the ways in which our history has been ruined. And that's a very personal story in which not only, for Aunt Irene, her family was already grown, so they were not totally impacted, although this is traumatic for anyone to be moved out of their home. I think John will come, I'd like him to come and talk to you in a moment about what it meant for a family that was still growing up and family disintegration as a result of that. So the other story I wanted to tell you is that I had the blessing of working for Evergreen State College as the dean for almost 7 years. And what a blessing it was. It was the best job. I was able to step into the footsteps of Dr. Maxine Mims. And I was able to do that at a time when she was still alive. So she could mentor me, consult with me. She even mentored me on my Ph.D. work. Everyone needs a team of mentors when you're working on your Ph.D. I see a lot of potential PhDs here. I see a few PhDs who know what I'm talking about. So you need mentorship. You need people to support you and encourage you. Dr. Mims was that person for me. So when the opportunity to work for Evergreen and to build that vision that she had came along, it was my honor to have it. Now, in March of this year, I was given a letter of termination for convenience and without cause. Now, I'm telling you now, that's why they terminated me. They were going another direction. And so I said, hey, it was a great 7-year run, and time to move on, because I was an educator before I got to Evergreen. I'll be an educator long after I leave Evergreen. But I do want to thank and honor Dr. Mims right now in her passing, just for the care she took, because my research was called Back to Africa in the 21st Century. I was looking at what would happen when Africans from the diaspora, people who had lived out here for so long, went back to Africa and began to see themselves in an African setting. What would they learn about themselves? And Dr. Mims went with me 7 times. I want to honor her and pour libation for her. Ashe. Thank you so much. So that is my second story, because this summit is called Truth and Reconciliation. So we have to figure it out. Because, it's Maya Angelou. I have her quote. I don't want to mess up her quote. Maya Angelou has a quote about reconciliation. And I want to tell you, reconciliation really it's not that hard to do, but it does require a lot of dialogue, a lot of admitting to what role you may have played, all right? Now, it's not just the role that we as Black people have played, because we have some complicity too, but what role have we all played in not acknowledging the history of Black people in this country, and in particular in the Pacific Northwest? What role have we played in that? We are all complicit and we have work to do. Because if we don't acknowledge that truth, then we can't move forward in a whole way, in a way that is holistic. So, and you know, losing a job and leaving, you know, I wasn't even allowed to go to the campus. I couldn't talk to anybody. Don't talk to anyone. You're not to communicate. All these kinds of things happen. And, you know, that causes some trauma. Right? And even for the workers, the co-workers, I love you all. You're here today. I honor you from Evergreen. You must also have experienced some kind of trauma because it was so abrupt. And truth and reconciliation requires truth, and it requires that we reconcile our role in the thing. Now, I'll tell you, in my case, I do want to say that, you know, I may have, you know, I did the best job that I could do. And it wasn't a shaggy job. We did a good job. And I do want to say a few of the things that came out of my leadership. While the college was in an enrollment decline since 2012, okay? But at COVID, we had gone down to 69 people. By the time I left, we had enrolled over 200 people at Evergreen State College. Also, we started a Saturday school. I call it Saturday school now, but it was called Scholarly Seminar, and we acknowledged that we were educating adult learners. And those adult learners are working all through the week. And there's one day that they might have that they can dedicate to their studies. It was actually Dr. Mims who suggested that. And we started having scholarly Saturdays, and people were coming, and it was becoming a very beautiful moment of learning and lifelong learning, because the community was invited. So everyone was in a huddle learning something. I also turned Evergreen from a 2-year completion program to a 4-year college at Evergreen, Tacoma. So you can start there. Yes. Because Evergreen just said you can only come after you had an AA degree or a transfer degree. And what we did was said, no, adult learners have enough knowledge to be able to walk in and begin the beginning of their degree. And so we did that. And we also adorned the building, as I have acknowledged with Akuye. We adorned the building with all of that beautiful, beautiful African art that people could see and know that it was speaking to them. Now, let me back up, because Akuye said something about we've got to decolonize our education, and you know, that's really that's a loaded thing to say. Decolonize, what is that about? Well, I told you that our history didn't start in the cotton patches of Mississippi. So we actually have a cultural orientation of collective action. That's one, first and foremost. That's what we do. We move as a people. That's what we do. We recognize and we move together. We say, okay, who's going there? Let's all go together. That's why you always see a pack of black people. Because they like to be together. They know collective action is something that is important to them. It is different than a European sense of individualism. I stand on my own, I'll bring in many people to work for me and make it happen, and that's the relationship. For African thinking, it is collective action. Today I'm going to help you because I know you need it, but next week I'm going to need your help, and I need you to come help me. So there's a reciprocity in collective action. This is who we are. Now, I'm sorry to disappoint some of you. We are not black white people. Okay? Because that has been the perception. That we're just black white people. And why can't we come up to be like them?
Don't want to be.
And it is so unnatural to who we are. We don't even want that, because it throws out our genius. Our genius occurs in that collective space. So it has been really important to think about preserving history. We've got to think about who we are. What are our values? What do we hold precious? How do we move best? Right? We are a very interactive people. We gotta talk it out. We gotta talk it through. We need ongoing shared dialogue. And do you know in the enslavement era, we were not even allowed to gather more than 2 or 3 people without the presence of a white foreman. I want you to think about what that has done to the cultural orientation of Black people, right? When all of our strengths come out of the fact that our cultural strengths allow us to gather, we're not supposed to gather, it would be too scary for too many Black people to be standing on a street corner, so that can't happen. That's called vagrancy. We're knocking that out. We also believe that if we sit in a huddle as Black people, see, because when we were in those ships coming here, there was nobody else. It was men, it was women. We had to survive in the bottom of those ships. And the dialogue stopped on arrival. And so we have to continue to dialogue. We need to talk it out with each other. We need to be with each other. Figure out our move forward. And we need allyship from all of the white folks in the room. Because if we're gathering and you don't say, that's important, that's good, that's what they should be doing, then there is going to be a problem. And the next thing you know, the state will step in, the state-sponsored violence for our people. And we know that this is happening quite a bit. So I just want to share that. Now, my last story is about, I think I gave you my last story. Okay, because I'm going to bring John up in a moment. Oh, my last story, no, is very important. It's about the stolen ones. And Akuye said she is a stolen one. You know, the perception that we were just sold off, you know, by a bank transaction and sent off on the plane and somebody benefited is really a false narrative. And when I was in Kenya in 2000, with the first group that I took to Kenya, and since that time, we have just finished 12 delegations in 26 years. And in 2000, we were there with a group having lunch, and an elder came and said, tell me about who you are. And one of my colleagues, Benita Horn, she had a photo album, and she said, well, this is an African-American school, and this is an African-American church, and this is an African-American club. And the elder said, well, you call yourselves African-American? Where do you come from in Africa? And we said, well, you know, we don't know. We don't know the answer to that. Some people have done DNA testing, but it's not conclusive for everyone. And she gets this epiphany. And she says, oh, you must be the stolen ones. Now, for her, she never knew who that was. She had been told as a young child when she remembered all the generations, you know, the African child does have to remember 10 generations of their ancestry and more. And when they're learning that, in her family she was taught, and then there were the stolen ones. Always remember the stolen ones. And she was like, the stolen ones, but you know, so when she's pouring libation or whatever, she'll say, and the stolen ones. But she never knew. So I'm explaining that the complicity of not having information about our history is not just in America, it's also in Africa. In fact, it's global. There's so many people who have no idea how we got here. All right? And we need to begin to consider it and write it down, document it. It is the first front line of what we need to share. with the next generations. So the stolen ones is very important because until I heard that story, I never knew that we were missed. You know, I never knew that people actually worried about where we had gone. And it wasn't until this elder was telling me, and she was grappling with the omitted information. And that is how we figured it out together. And the omission of facts is very important when we think about the preservation of history. Okay. So I do want to tell you, I have a few recommendations. I want us to have a conversation about what our children should be told. How do we prepare the next generation to preserve the history in a more strategic way? Okay. And so now I just want to share with you about truth and reconciliation. You know, it says that truth and reconciliation is about acknowledgement of wrongdoing. It's about an apology for wrongdoing. It's about witnessing remorse or atonement, all right? And then it is about reconciliation as to how to move forward, okay? It's not just, oh, I'm sorry, get over it, move on, all right? And even, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I've ever heard that from the United States government. 2 Africans whose lives were disrupted by this transatlantic slave trade. So we have a lot of grappling back and forth, ongoing shared dialogue, and also being able to really come to a point of understanding one another. Maya Angelou said, she reminds us to forgive, that to forgive is one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself. It relieves you of carrying the burden of resentment. Just drop it. That's what Maya Angelou said. And so we got to think about that because we hold stuff. And it wears in our body, it wears in our face, it just wears. And we have to learn that forgiveness is a very easy thing to do, and we don't do it for that other person, we do it for ourselves. And I say that because there may never come a time that people apologize for slavery, or they apologize for eminent domain, taking people's property, the prison pipeline, how they have disrupted families over the last few decades just through prison. We may never hear an apology. The work is inside of ourselves. We can reach reconciliation and truth if we are honest with ourselves, first and foremost. And we acknowledge in ourselves, how are we complicit? Do we understand who we are, where we came from? All right? So we need everyone to assist in getting the information, the history to us so that we can work through the history of our people and that it will make our children have efficacy that they are in need of for their education. Okay, my recommendations are that Black people must be the frontline educators for the children. And that happens in the home, starts in the home, right? And then we can bring them to events like this. There are events for children where we can be a part of it. You heard Akuye, she was there morning, noon, and night with her children. I think we can find ways to make that a very productive experience. So we need to teach them that with a critical eye, not just to accept. I heard Megan say, Just go get a job, do good, get a job, you'll be all right. We know this country doesn't work like that for Black people. We're often targeted unnecessarily. But if we know that how to think things through with a critical eye, then we also can avoid the pitfalls that we have been facing. We need to buy Black.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to buy Black. Everyone. Do you know that less than 4% of the population in this country buys Black? How is that going to make Black businesses strong? We don't have any businesses, venues, all of those things are very limited because we don't have that kind of economic strength. We need to buy Black. It's okay to buy Black. Reparations is a conversation that should be in every household. Black, white, any color. Black people, we know reparations have been given to people from the United States to all sorts of groups, including the Jews after World War II, including the Japanese because of the concentration camps. There are injustices that need to be made right.
Yes.
Reparations is to repair.
Yes.
We need to have Black people have reparations so that we can do better with ownership and don't have to stress at the bottom of the rung. And I want to say that I want to honor John Houston, who is here today, is going to address you because there's the John Houston Act. And he's going to tell you about it, so I'm not going to share too much. You're going to tell them about it, okay? But what I want to say is that there's also Jamila Taylor, our state representative, Jamila Taylor, established what we know as the Covenant Act. So we know that if you lived here with your family before 1968 and some kind of, you purchased property that was undervalued, you had to live in redline, you also had eminent domain, all those kinds of things that were on you. Jamila Taylor has acknowledged this and said, we need the new generations coming to be able to own their homes. And until today, there are now 1,500 new homeowners because of that act. Wow. The Covenant Act. And last but not least, I will say that every Black person, everyone included, but every Black person for sure, needs to go back to Africa. You need to go and visit the African soil to reset who you are and to understand your history and how it is grounded there. And that you haven't, even though you've been here for 400 years or more, you still have the essence of that Africanity. And you need to see that because it will make your back straighter. So with that, I'm going to sing a song. You might have to help me. My mother taught me early to turn the other cheek. She made me swear to think before I speak. She said, there may be times when you think you haven't got a friend, but stand up tall, my child, and don't you bend. It takes a whole lot of human feelings, I know from what I've seen. It takes a whole lot of human feelings to be a human being. Now, they say that overpopulation is an ever-pressing thorn, but we kill each other fast as we are born. And sometimes I have to wonder what strange black ectoplasm we're made of, that we have to ask computers whom to love. It takes a whole lot of human feelings, I know from what I've seen. It takes a whole lot of human feelings to be a human being. Can we sing that together? It takes a whole lot of human feelings. I know from what I've seen. From what I've seen. It takes a whole lot of human feelings to be a human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Marcia. I don't know, I feel like you just preached and we're like all like, yes, right now. Thank you.
We consider it scary.
Yeah, I'm sending this over to you, Mr. Houston. She wants me to give you the mic right now for me.
Oh.
And so, are you ready for that, King?
I don't know what to do. Where am I going?
You just stand where
You're
you
gonna
are.
stand up and I'm gonna come with you.
Give a quick talk.
I'll be your Vanna Yellow. And you're Vanna Yellow. I would say super brown, but I'm high yellow right now and I'm not as chocolatey as I normally am. Because coming out of winter. But she just wants you to say a few words. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Arunga. Thank you for Evergreen and for the Institute for inviting me to speak. I have the words of Dr. Arunga and the first lady that spoke.
Oh, Akuye.
Akuya. I don't have that conversation, but I think when you hear me, I think you'll understand what I'm trying to say. But my family story and my story, it touches Kitsap County, Rikuye, talking about Bremerton. It touches Renton, Seattle. It's about eminent domain, redlining, where the government feels that they have this great power where they can take our piece of the pie from us easy, like it's like taking candy from a baby.
Yes.
They can take it from us and do what they want with it, and they kick us out, and they spread us out. My parents came from Louisiana. My father, they advertised in Louisiana about those jobs hiring black men in Bremerton, and so many men came from the South for those jobs, and most of them were farmers, like my father was in Louisiana, but that's all he knew. He had a third grade education, signed his name with an X. Couldn't buy property in Kitsap County or own a home. So by magic, all these black men in Bremerton who came from the South ended up on the same hill in the Renton Highlands. Just a coincidence that these black men, it was unincorporated King County and it was a swampy land and white people didn't want it. So they very easily sold it to black families, and we're resilient people, like Dr. Arunga was just saying, just to go back after you back, you stand up a little bit straighter. Well, those men were resilient men. My father worked in the shipyards 5 years to save enough money. He was a sharecropper in Louisiana. He never saw a time clock. But that's what he had to punch working Bremerton. He got spit on, bottles thrown at him. But he stayed there for 5 years. He was a tough guy. And he didn't kill anybody, you know, because it was daily. So anyways, he saved enough money, bought 5 or 10 acres in the Renton Highlands. So little old white guy that liked my dad, 'cause my dad could talk. And he liked my dad, and he asked my dad, what would he do with the land? And my dad said, I would raise animals, care for my family. And so the old man, there was no bank loan. That's part of the red line. You know, black people couldn't get bank loans. So some man gave my dad a real estate contract. You pay him every month, it's like a mortgage, and it's paid off, you sign off. The old man kept his part of the deal, and my dad kept his part of the deal. And anyways, the Renton School District, after my parents got the land, they started, we want this land for a new middle school. Middle school was 1 mile from our front door. This is how that system is set up to take, like the Grayson land. I knew the Graysons personally, Bud, Jean, Reverend Grayson, your aunt. I knew them personally. I should walk through their property and every day. And they said they needed it for a new middle school. It's really a sad story because these people came from the South with nothing. And I think Akuya said too that she had to wait to come out here. My mom had to wait pregnant with my brother to come out here. She waited, my dad came out to work to save money. He slept in cars and, you know, just to make and save that money. So finally, when he got enough money, he had him come out. And I want to say this before I go on. Last year, this time there was 3 Houstons left of the Houston kids. Me, my brother, and sister. This year, I'm the only one left.
Oh, wow.
I lost my sister, and I lost my brother a month ago. We picked beans and strawberries in the summer in the Kent Valley to help pay for that land. To pay the taxes, my mom would do it, we'd buy school clothes, but my brother and sister are gone. I'm the only one left, but that legacy, that preservation that we talk about here, that's been talked about here today, fighting to keep that going. I have a book that it's called Return to the Sunlight. It talks about what was done to my family. Split my family up. Me and my brother and sister ended up badly addicted to drugs. And I still see it as a system. They don't care who it bothers. The city or the Renton School District is doing that right now. They took 32 homes and 8 businesses from people that don't have much, but they paid for their homes. And I've told people for years, and I'll say it, mostly white people, they've taken most of the black large landowners' land. They come